I have another start to finish editing video for you today. I have this still life of pears in a box with some burlap and some greenery. And you can see my raw image on the left here. The colors are very flat, it's too warm. There's a lot of things that are wrong with it, but I can easily correct those and create the image that I have on the right. So let's get started with that. So clearly the white balance is off on this. It's much too yellow. So I'm going to use my eyedropper tool up here on the right. Click on that, and I'm going to hover over one of these white beads. Now, if you have gray or any kind of neutral white through black tone that you're sure is neutral, you can use that to help you set your white balance. So really the only thing in this image are these little white beads or balls on this greenery that I have. It's artificial. So I'm going to click on that and see what happens. Well, it made it much cooler, which was a good thing, and it added quite a bit of tint, also a good thing. So I'll leave that there for now, but we'll keep in mind that we might want to adjust that just a little bit as we go along. The next thing I want to do is get rid of some of this edge of the box. I don't really want the viewer to see that, so I'll go to my crop tool and I'll crop it in just a bit. And the great thing about that is it puts that pear right on the rule of thirds for me. And I've eliminated some of the edges of the box that I really don't want the viewer to see. Okay, there's that. Now, the next thing I want to do is bring the exposure down a bit. I'm going for a very moody edit here, so I'm going to bring exposure down quite a bit. I'll drop down and add quite a bit of clarity. And I'm going to reduce the saturation quite a bit as well. Now I want to create some contrast with my tone curve. So I'm going to pull down the whites just a little bit and start pulling up things a little bit here. And then these dark midtones down, and then just up just a little bit on the blacks. So you can see that that has created some still very dark image, but some contrast. And I really like what the clarity is doing to the burlap. It's really helping that texture stand out, which is what I want. I also want my pears to stand out just a little bit more. And as you can see, I have 2 Asian pears and 1 Bartlett. I just didn't have the 3 Asian pears. So I need to correct the color on this Bartlett pear. And I'm going to do that with the brush tool. So I go up to the brush, click on that, and I'm going to come down to color, and I'm going to add some kind of an orange to it and see what that does. And I may have to go over this several times. I'm going to click on the mask overlay and just see if I've gotten the right areas of that orange. So let's darken that a bit, see if that helps, or lighten. I'm not sure why Lightroom is giving me fits today, especially when I'm trying to do a video. There we go. Okay, so I clearly have that Bartlett pear identified now. So it's looking better. I can use the toggle down here to see what it was like before and after. That looks better. I'm going to bring the exposure up just a little bit. I think that's too dark. There. I'll increase the highlights a little bit and the whites. There. Now I'm going to lighten this pear and this just a little bit, so I'm going to click on New for a new brush, and the custom will be just to lighten, or the custom will go from custom to lighten, and I'll brush that on here. And you can see it starting to lift that pear just a little bit. So we'll go to the whites, raise it, the highlights, raise that just a little bit. And a little more in this pear down here as well. I want more, so I'm going to go to new and give it another dose of lightening here. I'm not smoothing it at all, I'm just lightening the color. And I want to do layers because if I start going too heavy on these sliders, I'm going to create noise, digital noise, and I really don't want that. So click on new again and give it one more layer here and see how that looks. Now I can toggle this to see what the brush has done, and I'm really liking that. It looks much better. Okay, maybe just one more. The pears really are the subject, so I want them to stand out, and I think that looks good. Now, one thing that bothers me, well, actually there's a couple of things that are bothering me. One is this stem right here from my greenery, my artificial greenery. I want to get rid of that. I don't like that, so I'm going to go to the clone tool here, bring the size down, and just pull over that. Oops, I didn't really want to get that leaf, but we'll see if we can make that work. Okay, Lightroom, let's see. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit. And this one up a little bit. And we'll see how that looks. Not bad. I don't think anyone would notice it if they hadn't seen it beforehand. The other thing that bothers me is this little string of burlap. So again, I'll use the clone tool and make it a bit smaller. And I'm just going to run it right down that extra little string. And that looks good. The other thing is this crack right here in the box is letting some light in, so I want to get rid of that. And I think that should do it. I think I'm going to pull down on the saturation a little more. I'm going to come down to the color panel and click on the yellow, and I'm going to increase the luminance of the yellow a bit. I want the pears to stand out just a little bit more. So 18 would be good. And since I shot this at ISO 6400, there is a lot of digital noise, and I can really see it here in that preview. So I'm going to pull my noise reduction up to about 35. See how that looks. I don't mind a little bit of noise on this picture because it does have kind of a gritty feel to it. I want it to look dark, but I don't want too much digital noise either. And so I'll use my little target here and go over it and see what we've got. There's still a little noise, but I'm okay with that, so I'm going to leave that. Now I'm going to check for lens corrections. That's one thing I don't usually talk too much about because, goodness, what's going on here? Because I have it set up for the lens correction to be in effect on import. So I do have both chromatic aberration and the profile corrections checked there, so that automatically is taken care of on import. I'll put a little bit of a vignette on it, about -7, and in about 43, and I think that's good. So I hope this helped you see how we went from the beginning to the end. Just a few steps really, mainly correcting the white balance and then the introduction of that extreme clarity and the desaturation. I think those two things really had the greatest effect on this image. It's dark and moody. It has kind of an artistic feel to it now, and I really like it. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time with another edit.